Welcome, Warrior. Here we are back at it, and there's so much to cover. I've been doing so much Warrior work that things had to be left a bit for the lives, but here we are back at it, and we're going to start right off with Fred. There's Fred, always a devoted warrior, gifting 10 Lynn's Warriors memberships. Now, what do I always say about this? First, a great big thanks to Fred, but also getting the information out to the public and sharing is the greatest thing we could do. So, Fred, always so appreciate it. Edie, I saw you here somewhere. And Edie, yeah, hit the like button. That's right. Edie, yeah, hit the like button or thumbs up for Lynn the Warriors on your way in. Absolutely, because you know, Edie, I always forget to do that. So you do that for me. Thank you very much. We have to start with a couple of things that are on my mind. First of all, in Washington, D.C. today, there was a press conference about this pesky 230. I'm always talking about Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Now, don't yawn. Don't say, oh, no, here she goes again. This is very important because this Section 230, since 1996, has transformed what is going on with big tech right now and how they're allowed to have all these predators and all this, sexual information and dangerous algorithms and porn on their sites. Now, let's go back a little bit why this is so important. Every meeting I've been in, I think for the past 5 years, I would always say, unless we address Section 230, which in 1996, birth of the internet, that's considered the birth of the internet, there were like two platforms. And what this did, and rightfully so, I believe at the time, was to say that, well, these two platforms cannot be held responsible for third-party content. We are strictly a newsstand, a billboard. Makes sense to me. However, as this went along over the years, over the decades, it has transformed into this wild west where everyday apps are popping up and platforms are here. And it's just so much junk going on. So finally, it's never been amended, interestingly enough, because a lot of pieces of legislation have to be amended. They have to be, revoted on every 5 years, every 2 years, things like that. Section 230 never had to do anything in 30 years. But finally, there is a bill introduced, a piece of legislation that says we want to sunset this. So this is a good move. But the flip side, and what I'm always concerned about is all of this just theater? Thank you, Edie 5x5. I forgot to ask that one too. I'm so excited to be with everybody that, and Lionel Nation says loud and clear that I forgot to even ask because once I start talking, I just keep going. But is this just theater from big tech? Because in the back of my mind, and I don't like to think like this, there's Philip, big love and greetings from Montreal. I just watched Lionel's video. Well, we kind of come as a pair. That's what goes on. The double L's around here. But thank you for supporting and watching and listening. But I do want everybody to listen very carefully. Is this now? Let me get back to this. Just kind of propaganda from big tech. Even the government, with the piece of legislation for Section 230, because right now, these big tech platforms, and they admit it, they're putting all their money into AI, artificial intelligence. So will this just be the Facebooks, the X's, the Snap, go the way of MySpace? Again, I don't like thinking like this, but that's where my gut goes. So my gut's usually right. So I think we have something going on here. We do know right now we have a groundbreaking lawsuit in the state of California for big tech, where a 19-year-old brought a lawsuit against against TikTok and Snap and Meta. And you know what? TikTok and Snap settled right before court started a week ago Monday. And so now we're left with Meta, which is Mark Zuckerberg, and Facebook and Instagram. And right now, this groundbreaking trial is treating big tech as product liabilities because we know from whistleblowers, we know from studies, we have so much information now we did not even have 5 years ago, 2 years ago, that they designed these algorithms to harm kids. So they designed a product knowingly causing harm. But you know what their thinking is? It's so terrible. It's even hard for me to say this one. They think of paying out perhaps in lawsuits to children harmed from things on the internet, their big tech platforms. They think of billions of dollars. They have so much money as collateral damage. So they really don't care, right? Think of the tobacco industry. Go back and think about that. again, I keep going back to this dark space of none of this matters because everything, including the current administration, is talking about artificial intelligence, is saying we have to be global leaders, is saying K through 12, we're putting it in the classrooms. Yet I'm still asking that question. I've mentioned it here before, to teachers I know, to parents I know, to even kids I know. Like, what do you know about this K through 12? What do you know? Has your school discussed AI, this national program, this empowerment? Nobody knows about it, has heard anything new. So such a lot of talk going on, right? And I'm always afraid there's such distraction, talk, and then behind the scenes, all these things are done. And we just wake up one day and kaboom, things are out of control. It feels like things are out of control right now. So this is good, this lawsuit. This young woman, she goes by KGM, 19 now, she was a minor at the time, that is suing, saying, the big tech, the Meta, gave her anxiety and depression and all of those things. This trial is expected to last 6 to 8 weeks. They're in week 2. Jury selection. I know that Mark Zuckerberg this week was supposed to testify. This guy doesn't back down no matter what, which is also like a red flag because he has nothing to lose. So he'll pay out a few $1 billion for lawsuits and go on to do his AI, right? So his camp already announced yesterday that they want to delay. They want different lawyers, prosecutors. Delay is the way. Think of it. They're always kicking the can down the road. They think if they delay, things will just go away. People will become exhausted, overwhelmed, disappear, drop the subject. They can't handle it. In the meantime, a lot of parents from groups that we support, that we march with, we work with, Parents Rise across the country, also Parents Safe Online Spaces. A lot of these parents whose children have been harmed, the ultimate harm, I think you know what I'm talking about. We have algorithms right here on YouTube, so we're careful sometimes with words. The ultimate harm and other harms, right? All flew from around the country to Los Angeles, Superior Court. And they're there now. And Mark Zuckerberg, as far as we know as of today, is delaying, right? So they're all going to fly back, right? I bet you anything one day, and there'll be like an hour's notice, they'll be like, Mark Zuckerberg's coming in today. It'll be something like that. So we have all of this going on. And where will it lead? I don't know. We're going to keep an eye on everything, but we know something. It's funny because somebody wrote to me today. I am warning you in capital letters. And again, I am warning you. Okay. No nanny state. Stop what you're doing. Excuse me. We at the Warriors have a mission of raising awareness, sharing information, resources, education of parents, caregivers, and children, utilizing the media as we do here on YouTube, or also I did a terrific segment this morning on the other side of midnight, WABC Radio with Lionel. Yes, my husband. I'm his wife, which we do every Wednesday, Warrior Wednesday at 1 a.m. ET, Eastern Time. And I want everybody to go back. I just posted that on our Lynn's Warriors X account, and I'll get that onto Facebook and Instagram a little bit later on, about what February really is. And besides Valentine's Day, you know what else it is? It's Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And I bet you never heard about that, right? Something we really need to talk about. So I'm urging you to go back and listen to our conversation. It is most important that you realize, bruises aren't always physical. A lot of parents will say, well, I didn't know this goes on. My 15-year-old daughter's in a relationship with another, a 15-year-old boy. What we're witnessing is, again, influenced by the internet, okay? Again, these algorithms being fed to the kids. What are these algorithms I'm always talking about? This content. The goal of big tech, and we have internal memos where, for instance, Meta, they're calling kids pigs, little pigs that'll follow along and do anything and laughing about it. And we have whistleblowers, lawyers who worked at these companies, different tech people. There are a lot of great ethical tech people out there who quit their jobs or were told to hit the road when they brought up, this is harmful to kids. How are we going to handle this within the company? Are we going to have, more tutorials and safety councils and safety people? And they were told to zip their lips, we'll handle it. That was the universal kind of answer for anybody at big tech. We'll handle it up the chain of command. I heard that one a lot. So a lot of these ethical people left and have come forward, and we applaud them at the Warriors for doing this, because without this information, There's no transparency of these companies. You can't get in there. You can't, employees don't talk. It's a whole kind of mess, right? This tangled web thing. And it's so secretive. Yes, they say they have safety councils and they say they put children's safety first and they're doing everything in their power. You know, and I know, and the history of big tech, no, they don't. And even if they have, and some of them do, they put out tutorials always before something's breaking in the media or before there's the, threat of a lawsuit, or we online as coalition members across the country come together and put the word out. Hey, this is happening on Roblox. By the way, Roblox, most kids are on it. Understand what that is. It's for gaming. It is a predator's paradise. I don't want to single out Roblox because all of these online spaces are a predator's paradise, but Roblox in particular because it's one of the biggest gaming sites that kids are on. And young kids too, 7, 8, 9 years old, right? And what they're doing, these adults who very easily can sign on and say they're a kid, right? They are starting a conversation. They're getting the kids to go offline into the DMs, the direct messages. Just yesterday, a story broke, and I posted this as well on the Warriors. 2 sisters were online with this guy, this adult 29-year-old man. They were young teens, online 29-year-old man for several months. Their parents got wind of it, confronted them. They were offline with the guy for a while. Now they were back online with the guy, and the guy drove something like 1,000 miles and picked up these girls, and he was driving them to Ohio from, I don't know where they were, upstate, something like that, New York. But because they had the communications and the mother knew the story that was going on and they figured it all out, thank goodness, they got the 2 girls back. But do you see how there's such a war on for our children? I've been saying that for years, and people would laugh in my face. They would say, what are you talking about? Because right now, let's get back to this Section 230, there's nothing to stop them at all. They've never been held accountable. We're not talking about, we want freedom of speech. We love tech. We're not giving it up. We're talking right now. I can be talking to people across the world. But we want, ethical tech. We want to keep the kids safe. So this is I keep hearing, well, it's our First Amendment rights. No nanny state. How do we figure out if these big tech companies have been allowed to make, I don't even know the amounts of money, the trillions, the billions, whatever's after that, the zillions, I don't even know if that's whatever. Why are they not in some way, shape, or form really held accountable for all of the harms to kids that we talk about in the Warriors nonstop? We have a youth mental health crisis. We have kids just today. There was a new TikTok challenge where there's this certain ball kids are playing with made out of some kind of something, right? The kids are told to put it in the microwave. And this 12-year-old put it in the microwave. When he went to open the microwave door, it exploded in his face. Now he's deformed. He's burned in the face. Who allows this? Abuse. This is abuse of children. So we've got a lot going on. Hopefully this Section 230, at least it's a little something we're talking about it. That is the hope and the good news in 2026. I believe it is the year of change, despite all this we're discussing, is that more people are aware. More kids are putting down the devices, at least a little bit of time every day. A lot of kids are putting down devices 1 day a week. That's a start. We've got a lot of schools have signed up this past school year, for the Bell to Bell program. No cell phones, devices like Apple Watches as well, during the school day, during the school year. So school day. So even if that's, 8 a.m. to 2:30, at least the kids are off the devices. And we have reports of didn't really affect the kids too much. It affected the parents who were carrying on, I need constant contact with my child. What if there's an emergency? What if there's this, that, the other thing? But the kids are doing just fine. Teachers are reporting there's a lot of noise in the hallways, which they like. A lot of noise in the cafeteria, a lot of noise, Kids are conversing and sharing and running around in playgrounds, and that's what we need, right? So that's good. So there's a lot of good stuff. Now, let's get back to this Section 230. So in D.C. today, this press conference talking about sunsetting Section 230, we'll see where that goes. Because again, my gut is telling me, well, let me make a little bit of an analogy. There's a little bit of a jump here, but bear with me, everybody. We had so much going on in Washington about Epstein. We have to talk about Epstein. I try not to, because in my Warrior's opinion, we will never know the truth about Jeffrey Epstein and all of his complicit party partners, whatever you want to call them. it is such, talk about a tangled web of people from the highest ranks of governments around the world to, I believe, Hollywood, I believe, to everywhere. It reaches the tentacles into everything. And it's been going on for too long. I turned to my husband, it might have been yesterday, and I said, how did Jeffrey Epstein get to be Jeffrey Epstein? There's like a lot of people out there, right? A lot smarter people. Jeffrey Epstein is I should say was not smart. I've looked at a few interviews with him, and he's smug, and he's not smart, yet all of a sudden he's a teacher here in New York City years ago at the very prestigious Dalton's private school. He's a math teacher. He didn't even graduate college, and all of a sudden he's math. Then he's a financial whiz, and people are selling him, Les Wexner from Victoria's Secret, and selling him the biggest private home in Manhattan for $1. Like, there's something wrong with that, right? And I actually remember when that home, it used to be a school years ago. It's a huge building. And, how did he get there? Him. Again, but forget that for a minute. But I was just thinking about that. We have to talk about that because all of this new Epstein file dump this is not new news to the Warriors for the most part. Because we heard from victims we know, survivors we know, just the kind of gossip, on the street, as I like to say, working in this arena, if you'll have that, is we heard these stories of what was happening, what was going on. However, unless you have proof, that's not good enough. The hearsay, you heard, whatever. So what a lot of these now women who came forward, who were minors at the time, and I don't care if they were 16, 17, in the eyes of the law, that is still a minor, right? They told us about these different things that were happening, these horrible, and we're a family program here, but if you looked at any of the files, and they named names, they named all these names a long time ago for the most part, all right? And it's nothing new, except now we're seeing the names. And what took so long to get to this point? And now there's another, they're telling us, 2.5 million files, right? So there's a lot going on in Capitol Hill where they had, let me see, it was the month of December, I believe, this Epstein Files Transparency Act, and everybody was applauding and patting each other on the back. And I remember thinking, and press conferences and cheering, I've always believed we will never know the truth about Jeffrey Epstein. There are people involved all over the place. It's power. We're not going to get there. It's been going on for decades. The guy's been allowed to do whatever he wants. And why is Ghislaine the only one in jail? Now, I'm not supporting her in any way, shape, or form, but why is there just a woman in jail? What about all these men, right, named? And now I'm seeing this bevy of, some of the men named in the newest files. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I regret being friends with Jeffrey. Oh, I didn't know about Jeffrey. Come on now. Even my husband and I knew about Jeffrey living in New York City, and we didn't know Jeffrey Epstein, but there was always talk on the street, as I like to say, about him and minors, right? We heard about France, the modeling agencies, and 12 and 13-year-olds. Yet it was always, well, unless there's proof. So these recent files are showing us what survivors, victims told us all along. I can't imagine which the next dump will prove. But okay, so we have all of this. And another thing, all of a sudden that jail cell where he disappeared, if you know what I mean, they said the recording wasn't working. Now all of a sudden they're putting out recordings of his jail cell. Is anybody questioning what happened in the last 6 years? All of a sudden you have recordings. You told us it wasn't working. But the bottom line for all of this is a couple of things. We'll never truly get the answer, I believe, for any of this. Too many complicit, too many powerful people. We also don't know where are the videotapes. We know from a lot of these women, said he was a recording studio. He had every room here in Manhattan on the island. He had everything wired. Who's in possession? I certainly believe the DOJ is in possession of a lot of materials. But what a joke. Look at the process, with AG Pam Bondi putting files out, redacted names. However, the newest dump, they leave a lot of names in there of these victims. And you have to understand, here's the thing. People are so naive about when it comes to show business and glitter and what they perceive as glam and money. You know it. I know it. A picture doesn't make you guilty. Loads of picture for people, for instance, jump in pictures with celebrities coming out of a Broadway theater. They jump in. That celebrity doesn't know that person. That person doesn't know that, actor, actress. You know how people lose their heads over, I'll say celebrity, quote unquote, kind of thing, right? Somebody of influence, somebody of power, somebody could be in the government, somebody who has money. And that doesn't make you guilty of anything. So always when there was talk of, I don't know, Katie Couric was at dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, and, this one was that doesn't make you guilty because people like to hang around with people with money. That's the bottom line. But we always needed the proof. So where are the videotapes? I believe the DOJ has them. I also believe there may be one or two other people that have them in their possession and use that to their advantage, right? So we can follow the Jeffrey Epstein. It's horrific, all of these things coming out. But where is it going? Where is it? Who will be held accountable? Now, the Clintons, they ignored their subpoena with Congress. Now they're coming forward. They have nothing to hide. What about Bill Clinton, President of the United States, who is seen in Jeffrey's mansion on East 71st Street in a blue dress and red high heels and a painting? I mean, this stuff you couldn't write. You couldn't write this for a Hollywood script, all this stuff. But who suffers here? So while media is talking about how sensational all of this stuff is, and everybody's losing their minds, victims, survivors, and not only of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but also all survivors of abuse and sex trafficking. And remember, that all intersects domestic violence, sex trafficking. It's all coercion, force, psychological damage. And how about, what are they thinking? What does this do to them, right? When they see power and money not be held accountable. If you and me did one or two of these Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell things, we'd probably be in jail. But not for these people, right? So this is another reason victims will not come forward with these sexual assaults, with trafficking, because they'll say to me, like, nobody listens to me, nobody believes me, or they're too embarrassed and they're ashamed. But getting back to the modeling, I started that and I went off on a tangent kind of, as far as Paris went, and Jeffrey had an apartment in Paris. Nobody really talks about this much. The modeling agency, the guy did go to prison. Brunel, the modeling owner of this agency, he would say, I'm going to bring, from what I heard from somebody associated with all of this, he would say to mothers, I'm going to bring your she's the most beautiful girl in the world, this 12-year-old. Modeling, the money's all in America. We will watch her. We will bring her to America. We will put her with this agency. In the meantime, they're bringing them to this Epstein Island place, right, where girls are assaulted. So I want to also say, please, if you have children, grandchildren who want to be in show business, modeling, any of this stuff, okay, you can do it if you want. It's a free country. You better be with them every step of the way. You do not send your child off. And I saw it when I was working on Broadway. Any kids involved. There was only one case I saw where the mother stuck to the minor like glue. That child was never left alone. And despite you have backstage tutors, you're in an adult environment, but other people just drop their kids off, leave them, with people running in and out of the theater. Only once did I see a mother stick by her child. You better be there with that child if you choose to go down that path. Of course, we suggest no children get involved in any of this showbiz, business of show, as we call it, this tawdry business for the most part. So let's swing back to Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. There's a wonderful website called Love is Respect. And I wish everybody who's putting the emphasis on, I know, Epstein, even, and we pray that Savannah Guthrie's mother is found, and she's eventually safe. And it's a horrible story, right? Our hearts go out. It's a horrible story. But so much attention and everybody's talking about it, rightfully so. But kids go missing every single day. And nobody talks about it. Kids just disappear. We have approximately 2,300 American children, minors, disappearing every day. Now, Some of those are sex trafficked, labor trafficked, familial disputes, right? Two parents fighting. One parent takes the kids, runaways. Runaways need to be considered missing children. We have so many runaways. People fight me on this one all the time. Some kids have to run away. It's so abusive in their home. They think they will survive better on the streets, and they know better. And we know within 24 hours, there's very high likelihood they will be trafficked. Because I see them in New York when they come out of the Port Authority bus terminal with a backpack on their back, looking around. They just have a look about them. They could be 16 years old. And those traffickers, those pimps, those creeps, they're hiding in the shadows there. They're waiting for those kids. And kids are naive and their brains don't know. What if you're from, somewhere in the Midwest and you just don't? I'm not picking on the Midwest, but New York City is a tough city. You got to be alert, all the time. And somebody walks up to you and says, I actually saw this one day. He walked up to this girl and he said, "Oh, can I help you? You look a little bit lost, and do you need some directions?" And she said, "Oh, sure. I'm looking for so-and-so." And he said, "Okay, I'm going that way." And then off they go, right? Now, by the time you call 911, by the time you take any action, they are long gone. So how can we avoid things like this? And this girl I saw, she did not, let me see what I'm seeing here. Edie, member for 17 months. The hand sign for help is important. Absolutely. We don't really use it that much here. It's this, or something like this. This, we don't really use, they use it in other countries most of the time. But, okay, the hand sign is important, but we have to teach it to everybody. So they're using it in other places. Why aren't we, another thing I brought up to my husband was, it's ingrained in our minds as adults, right? When we were kids, your kids, our kids, stranger danger, right? We still say that, stranger danger. But when it comes to this subject of creeps, mostly fueled, every story I'm reading in the last few days, it is a teen met somebody online. I'm getting loads of these stories. Okay, they met the person online. They went to travel to meet the person. The person picked them up. They met them online. So many kids, right? Why aren't we having our stranger danger about the internet? Again, we don't want to shut it down. We're all about tech. It's the way of the world. But we need it to be safe for our kids. How are we going to accomplish that? I can't really figure that out, because the only thing I can think of is our Warriors hashtag is community creates change. We, the people, it starts in our home. It starts in our communities. Because yes, we work on legislation. Yes, we travel. Yes, we talk to schools. We talk to places of worship. We talk to community groups. We talk to everybody. But there's so much red tape. In the meantime, so many, especially children, are being lost, trafficked. So again, this is an interesting, so weird, this Savannah Guthrie, her mom Nancy, this is horrible. Again, we pray and we hope she's found. But I wish that kind of enthusiasm was put on a lot of kids that go missing every single day, right? That we had the public all out looking for them and leveraging the internet for good and really sharing their photos. I put out photos almost, I think, just about every day, missing kids that I want you to share on your platforms. Or, now we're leading into that Super Bowl. All they talk about is Bad Bunny. Can you imagine if all that energy and that talk was about missing kids, was about sharing networks and photos of, go to 1-800-THE-LOSS, missingkids.org. Every day they put out pictures of missing kids. Just make it a habit to share one child a day on one of your platforms. You never know. You never know if somebody has seen something, right? Knows something. I was watching an interesting, I think it was on Netflix, I guess, about Elizabeth Smart. Remember that case from 2002? She was 14, and some sort of handyman type that her mother hired and worked for 3 hours on their home in Salt Lake City decided to come back one night, climb into her bedroom window, and take her away. And she went with him. And her sister Mary Catherine was in the bed next to her and saw the whole thing. I urge you, if you have Netflix, to watch that, because law enforcement didn't believe that the 9-year-old sister who said this is what he looked like. A lot of people dropped the case. There was a lot of focus put. The first thing when people go missing is they look at the family. and rightfully so, those closest, right? But they really put a lot of emphasis on Elizabeth's uncle. And so a lot of people, the public, dropped off thinking, oh, a family member did something to Elizabeth. They put it on the father, who said he checked that his father, Elizabeth's grandfather, checked him into a psychiatric hospital because he was losing his mind over all this. But I'm just saying, we got a lot of play out of Elizabeth Smart, and thank goodness she was rescued, she was found, and it's all because a waitress in a restaurant reported. She thinks she saw Elizabeth Smart. Eyes and ears. So we have to have eyes and ears more than ever. But getting back to the teen dating violence. So we have the reports, and this is a few years old now. 1 in 3 teens in relationships are reporting they're abusive. And that's psychological, physical, it's coercion, it's force. We have about 45% of college-age women saying in their relationships they suffer abuse. And remember, the abuse is not always, you can't see it. It's not bruises on the body. It's mostly this psychological beating. Now, where does this all come from? It comes from online, where kids are being fed these algorithms of this is the content that gets attention, gets the most clicks and likes. This is the content, making fun of people. Can you imagine if we taught kindness and empathy, right? But this is the content that everybody's looking at. We are getting the pornography that it's okay to strangle a girl. And we know all this, and there's studies, we don't have time to go into it, studies and stats, because our healthcare is reporting in emergency rooms across the country that girls as young as 9 years old are showing up with strangulation marks on their necks and reporting this is what happened. From a fellow classmate or from somebody they met online who could be in the next town over, perhaps, in their town. They decide to meet up. And boys, it's nobody's fault here, right? Because remember, I like to say kids 30 and under thrown into this digital bubble. Just thrown. Nobody had a choice here. It went from 2 platforms in MySpace, and then Facebook, you can talk to your family and friends. And that was kind of cute and nice. And we all fell into it and liking, even if we didn't know the person, we're liking them and adding them as a friend. And it's kind of cool. We thought, think back to when all this was starting, right? And then we see a direct correlation with the birth of the iPhone in 2008. And it had a camera, and everybody loved it. And it was modern technology, and everybody rushed to buy their kids iPhones because kids wanted them. And we were buying iPhones, and just led us down this path of normalization, of reporting every dinner we ate, of taking pictures and everything. We're living this life online. Now here we are in 2026, and now we know the harms. So now we have to deal with it, and we should be dealing with it. But if boys are being fed content that this is the way, this is love. That's why we say love is respect. And again, that's the website, loveisrespect.org. Respect. You want respect. Love is kindness. Love is empathy. Right? Love is talk and conversation. Love is taking care of each other. Kids have lost this. Adults have lost it too, but let's talk about the kids right now because they're not being taught it. They're not being shown it, right? Look at how all the kids right now are looking at all the chaos in our country. We don't know what their brains are thinking internally, right? Kids isolate, internalize a lot, don't share. They may share with their friends, but they don't share a lot with their parents, right? Or a trusted adult. That's what we have to work at and chip away at. So we are seeing also with this exchange with sextortion and nude images, that is another thing. A boy will say to a girl, it's very common, oh, I'd like to go out with you. However, I need a nude image first before I can make a date with you. Can you imagine? And the girls are sending them. And there are girls doing it to boys as well. But it's not their fault because they've grown up in the bubble. Everybody seems to be doing it. So why not? And as I always warn everybody, including all the warriors here, an image online is an image forever. Kids will say to me, I deleted it. And I'll say, no, it's there forever. Once online, never disappears. Somebody's captured it, somebody shared it. And now with all these nudifying apps, what's real, what's not real. So I think February, the month of love, right? Valentine's Day. Love is respect. We have to start stepping up from the time, a kid's a little child, talking about love is respect. So by the time they get to that age with the hormones kicking in and they're a teenager, um, they know if something's dangerous or doesn't feel right, they will walk away proudly. They'll come to the trusted adult, the parent, and talk about it. What parents need to do is look for signs. Very easy. Your gut usually tells you, but you got to be aware. If an outgoing child suddenly becomes withdrawn, if they suddenly spend a lot of time in their room, if they suddenly drop out of activities they've liked, whether it's, sports or dance or cheer or art, any of that, they're a reader. They stop reading. Um, they stop eating. I mean, all this kind of stuff. If they're secretive, they're hiding their phone when you walk in a room. Remember, we don't want phones. We don't want any devices in the bedrooms at night. A lot of trouble happens with that. Plus, kids are losing sleep. So we want them out so kids can sleep. You have to do that by example, though. All the phones put in one place. It can be done because we have a lot of families doing it and it's working out swell, as I like to say. But it's very secretive. Or if you heard, for instance, your teen, on the phone saying, yes, 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 I'll do it. Or apologizing profusely, constantly. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I actually hear that out of a lot of women. I've been thinking about this lately, that constantly apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry. It is trauma. So again, those bruises aren't, when we talk to parents, adults, oh, but my daughter doesn't look like she got beat up. No, it's psychological damage. Remember that for trafficking is the wearing down of one's mind and making them, submissive so they just go along. And going back to Elizabeth Smart, she was in a position several times where even once a police officer came up to them in a restaurant. I don't know if you recall the story, but they wore these weird veils and said they were people of God. And so she was pretty much hidden except for her eyes. But she said, and again, she was a kid as well, about 14, 15. She said she was afraid to speak out. She was in fear to speak out. She was just because when she spoke out, then she was beaten and other things. If she opened her mouth a lot, so she kept it shut. But they were approached because they would go into town, come out of the mountains to eat, and she never opened her mouth. So when people say to me, I take great offense, oh, that would never happen to me, or oh, nobody would traffic me, or I'd run away and kick the person. It is a fast-moving grooming process, gaining one's trust, moving in on vulnerabilities. Talk about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Mostly vulnerable girls from broken homes, girls who are looking for a career in entertainment, modeling, taking advantage of that vulnerability. It's that power dynamic. Power dynamic. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't going after women his own age, or even women in their 20s. He was going after young girls, teens, right? Power dynamic, okay? So let's finish up with, we support, you can find it on our Lynn's Warriors X account, if you have an X account, or just go look it up. Americans for Responsible Innovation. We are part of a coalition where we are fighting to maintain our AI laws. The states have done a great job in putting forth artificial intelligence laws to protect everybody, not just children. And right now, the federal government wants this preemption to sweep everything away and have one big. Now, I kind of understand. Every state's having different laws, but our federal government hasn't done a good job in putting AI in its place, if you want to bottom line it, and the states have. But now, all of a sudden, the federal government has swept in. They want to they want to preempt, get rid of all these pieces of legislation, laws that will keep kids safe. No. They should have started the federal government with all of this, because AI has been around a long time. It's just been unleashed on the public fairly recently. So I'd like all of you to follow that and go to our X account. I named everything Lynn's Warriors because I want everybody to be a warrior in their own home, in their own community, with each other. Fred says to get wood chipper for predators. Well, a warrior can dream. I agree with you. Warrior. But Fred says also they can threaten your loved ones if you run away or speak out. But that's the whole thing with trafficking. They have manipulated the minds of the vulnerable, right? Or in these relationships. Let's get back to, February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. They threaten your pets, your siblings, your mom, your dad. And that person becomes so in fear and also embarrassed. They just shrink. And that creep, that person, that criminal takes advantage. We have to break the cycle. Edie says if the federal government does this preemption, the states should object. They are. There are lawsuits, Edie, ready to go in 22 states. Okay? There's so much going on behind the scenes that is not covered in media. You're not going to hear about. That's why you tune into the Warriors. Things are breaking every day about all of this. It is very frightening because as people live their lives and take care of their families and just go to work and mind their business and, put gas in the car and buy food and pay their bills, all of these things are sneaking up behind the scenes that will be devastating. And we talk and know and work with some very ethical tech people at the Warriors. And when they tell me they are very concerned about all of this artificial intelligence. And we have an administration. So far, it's just talk, though. The K through 12 program, they want it in the schools. And I'm all for if artificial intelligence could truly be a tutor for our kids and empower them to think better, to critically analyze. I'm all for that, right? We're all for that, to make our kids better. Because after all, our recent national report cards of about 4 months ago showed every grade, K through 12, failing in math, in science. The highest was grade 12. It was a 32% in science, right? So we're failing the education system. If we truly could put this AI in there to help, to get everybody back on track, to make them smarter, help them think. We need people to think, and it has to start as a child. So by the time you get to an adult, and the other thing is, I'm throwing a lot at you, but things are just popping into my head. I'm constantly surrounded by young people, kids saying, I'm anxious, I have anxiety. No, I have anxiety is what they say. They don't say I'm anxious. They say, I have anxiety. That's like this thing that's been going on maybe 5-10 years now. Anxiety. We have to get the kids out of that mindset that everything makes them have anxiety. How they problem solve. It's that old saying, like there's a solution to everything, right? And to remain calm and to breathe. And you don't fix things with a pill. You don't fix things by screaming, having a breakdown. All these things I'm hearing constantly. But it's up to us as the adults to be those leaders that get everybody back on track. And I know we can do it. So, Fred, I see your question. I don't know. Which is an answer I never like. I never say I don't know. All I do know is we at the Warriors want to empower you. We want you to have information. We want you to have resources. So right now, let's focus on one thing, because I threw a lot at you about this Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, that it is escalating, that kids are treating each other horrifically. It's no longer going to do homework together or going to get a hamburger after school. It's this horrific stuff that girls and boys are just accepting starting at age 9. We're hearing 9 and 10 is the dating age. Can you believe this? 9 and 10. I think I was still playing with paper dolls at 9 and 10, right? But that is the age they're starting to date, kind of thing. Hook up, as they call it a lot. So there's no learning each other. There's no, we have to break that. Because again, as I like to always say, these are our future American adults, our future American leaders. Where are we going to be when these children, they will eventually become adults? It's a mess. So we have work to do, and we've got to do it in the homes and in our communities. Remember to get involved. You have a child or a grandchild, and you can do it. The schools, find out what they're teaching about AI, ask questions, respectfully. What's the curriculum? You have every right. Talk to the kids. Don't demand. Don't say it should be this way. Conversation, that word. I don't even like that word, but there's no other word. Like, oh, okay, so what did you do in math class today? Those kind of things, as opposed to, I got an email from your teacher. You didn't hand in your math assignment. We're all smart here. Understand our kids are suffering. Our kids need us. Kids want structure. Kids like it when we take an interest. It can be hard with teenagers in the beginning because it's tough with some of them with the hormones, and they're angry. Kids are so angry. Look at all the crime going on. Constantly, I'm seeing child on child crime. Children, hurting parents. Again, we have algorithms. I think you know what I mean. Horrific stories of such anger. And I dare say, sure, we had this in the past, not to this extent. Again, fueled by the internet. Okay. It's normalized, it's habituated. And throwing out there, somebody also like chid at me because I put something about Netflix that a new study that came out. Everything, they reviewed all the children's programming, and it was 42% of children's program, 42 to 43% of children's programming has sexual content. Shows for little kids about trans, okay, we all know about Netflix, right? We're not even going to go into that. Still, I watched the Elizabeth Smart documentary on Netflix as I wanted to. Before I talk about anything, I don't want to read about it. I don't want somebody else to tell me. I want to see it and hear it for myself before I talk about anything. I want to see it for myself. So there are different programs you can watch on Netflix. But let's get back to the kids. The days of sitting a child in front of a cartoon and walking out of the room are over. When we're telling you, shows on Netflix developed for 6, 8, 10-year-olds have sexual content, and it's always like built in somehow, that trans message kind of thing. Be careful. Be aware. Stop closing your eyes. Join together. Make others aware appropriately. Don't beat people over the head, but in your circle of friends, in your family. Just talk about it kind of thing. It's uncomfortable, but it's happening. And the collateral damage are kids. So we've got a lot of work to do, warriors. I know we're up for it. We're going to do it. Thank you, Fred, for saying everything. Thank you, Mrs. L, for everything you do. Thank you for listening right now. Please share our information. Please spend 5 minutes a day and educate yourselves. Know what's going on. Just be there and understand it's very important. If we have kids and it's Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, hard for me to say that. Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Kids should be out having pizza, going bowling, having laughs, running around the park, even if they're teenagers, right? Riding bicycles, walking around. I don't know. Girls going shopping together, in the local little town shops. We got to get back to this stuff. And I do see the pendulum swinging ever so lightly, gently, in that direction when we have a lot of kids. We've got a group here in New York every Sunday. They have one meeting point in this park. They don't have phones, this whole group. They just know every Sunday, this is where we meet. And they do it. And we have a lot of groups around the country. Reports are coming in of kids starting to do this. And a lot of reports of even young people we've marched peacefully with Heat Initiative, which is a great group that puts the heat on these big tech companies, harms to children, peaceful protesting. We're not screaming and yelling. We don't do that. We march with parents whose children have been harmed, right? They're very angry because they say, we were the guinea pigs, like the 25-year-olds. We didn't know. And now we have all these studies and whistleblowers coming forth who worked at these companies. They knew they were harming. They were laughing at us behind our backs. And their goal, big tech, is making money, keeping eyeballs on there, keeping the algorithms going. But think about this. They're also lying to their advertisers because they're lying about the kids. We know the history. They don't really care, right, about keeping kids safe, no matter what they say. So this trial I mentioned before, we are sure they will probably say we have safety councils. It's up to the parents. Their home environment causes, mental problems, all of that. But it remains to be seen in conjunction with this sunsetting Section 230, which I think has legs. Got to keep an eye on AI, artificial intelligence. I'll keep you in the loop about that because so much going on behind the scenes in D.C. with all of that. And we're going to keep at it. And we're going to keep being warriors. And I thank you. And I thank you, Edie, for always reminding everybody to hit the like button. Please do that. It helps us with talk about algorithms. It's not popular what we talk about, but you need to know this. I advise you to go back, go to our X, look for that posting about, I'll put it on Facebook and also Instagram later, about I joined The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel to talk about teen dating violence, and we go into it a little more in depth because we spend about an hour talking about all of this. We have coming up this week the Cats Roundtable, National Edition on WABC Radio every Sunday in the 9 a.m. hour. We do that. I have a segment, I haven't put it up yet, Nancy Grace. Who else? Is it about Jeffrey Epstein? just remember, in all of this Epstein talk, who's forgotten? Victims, survivors, women now who may have families, women who were too embarrassed to come forward, wanted to put it behind them, and now their names are splashed out there. So how dare, Pam Bondi give out binders and redacted this, redacted that. We're never going to get to the bottom of this. But we do rally for holding these men, and there were women, not named a lot, accountable for harms to children. So let's all take a breather. Let's all reconvene. I'm going to try to do some more lives more frequently. Fred, I want to thank you for always being such a supporter of the Warriors. It means the world to me to get information out there. Lynn@lynswarriors.org is the email. I'll be putting out a newsletter in 48 hours. I want everybody to sign up. Go to the website, lynswarriors.org, scroll down, sign up. It'll be a surprise what it's about, but it's a real goodie. And all of you, do one little thing a day in this arena. It's a lot, because again, it's teen dating violence, it's trafficking, it's domestic violence, it's Jeffrey Epstein, it's who knows, it just goes on and on and on. And it's easier just to close your eyes and ignore because it's too overwhelming. But we can't. Pick one thing, focus on that, always share our information. Let's get it out there. And we thank you from the bottom of my heart, our warriors' hearts. We have a lot of good things coming up in March and April as spring will be finally coming upon us because it's freezing cold here right now in New York City. And I'm just happy that you all tuned in. So let us have a good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining, and let us talk again soon. But remember, when you wake up each and every day, what do I always tell you? Go out and be a warrior.